Howdy, and welcome to our Walking Through the Word for today. We're going to be looking at John chapter 1, and we're going to be looking at, verses 11, 12, and 13. Now, my kids love, or at least one of my kids, I should say, loves the movie Annie. She's seen every version of Annie, and she always just loves that movie. And I think a lot of us can resonate with the ideas that Annie has, and all of those orphan girls that they might be adopted by their very own Daddy Warbucks. That even though their parents didn't want them or for whatever reason gave them up, they wanted to be adopted by someone who was rich and famous. Well, that's exactly what John is talking about here in verses 11, 12, and 13. He's talking about the fact that we can be adopted by someone far greater than Daddy Warbucks in terms of the Father. When Jesus came down, he was not recognized, or they refused to recognize who he was. And when it says his own people did not receive him, specifically what John is talking about are those people who were from the nation of Israel, the Jews. They did not recognize and would not recognize Jesus as Savior. Now, I need to be very clear that this statement here, this sentence here, is not a rejection by God of the Jews. Far from it. What it is, though, it is an inclusion of people other than the Jews. And this is one of the things that the Jewish religion oftentimes struggles with, is the fact that God now offers salvation, as he says here, to all who did receive him and believed in his name. There is no caveat. There's no asterisk. There's nothing there that says, yeah, but there's this. No. Anyone who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, to become adopted by someone far greater than Daddy Warbucks, someone who gets all of the rights and privileges of being a child of God. And this is not something you get born into in verse 13, not of the blood, nor, this is important, the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man. In other words, there's nothing that we can do to will it. There's the whole thing nowadays. If you can manifest it, this doesn't work. Manifestation doesn't work, okay? What does work, though, it says here, is the will of God. What God wills happens in our lives, not what we manifest. We cannot manifest salvation. We cannot manifest anything that's going to get us into heaven. We simply must receive him and believe in him. And John, even though we haven't even officially met Jesus yet in this letter, is telling us the path of salvation. That is, after all, the purpose of this letter, that you might know that Jesus is God. That's the point, that you might believe in Jesus and be saved. This is the purpose of this, and John is giving us the spoiler alert, the main point, at the very beginning, to let us know that anyone who receives him, not by their own will, not by their own desires, anyone, if you asked anyone, would you like to go to heaven? There's not a single person that would say no. Sorry, not even AC/DC. They would not say, they wrote the song Highway to Hell. They would not say, I would really prefer hell over heaven. No one is going to do that. That's not how it works. We don't get to pick where we go. We must give it up. We must recognize the authority of God, the authority of Jesus. It is the will of God. This word, if you will. He, remember, we don't know it's Jesus yet, but this he who is the light, who is pure, 100% good, he is the only one that can give us our right to become children of God. It is only through him. This same light that everything was made through him, salvation is also only through him. This is the implication of this. All things were created through him and by him, for him. Everything has to flow through him. This includes salvation. And this is a deep thing here, folks, because there will people that will tell you that there are many ways to heaven. There are many paths to heaven. No, there are not. And this right here makes it very clear that this is the only way to do it. All who did receive him, who believe in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. It doesn't show here any other way. It shows the will of the flesh doesn't do it. The will of man doesn't do it. Our own personal wants and dreams and desires will not get us into heaven. Only belief in the light, in the word, in Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. All right, that's it for today. We'll talk more next time.